now to make this beautiful yoke blouse. Okay, so the yoke part is curved like this, and it extends to the bustier part on one side while it is not on the other side. It's a very simple tutorial and it is beginner friendly. If this is what you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this blouse, I already drafted my basic pattern here. So this is my chest line, where I'm taking my armhole measurement. This is the bust point, this is the under bust, and this here is the waistline. So from the center front here, I went in by 4 inches, which is my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. And then here I took a dart of 1 inch, then I took it down and connected it to 1 inch before my bust point. So that is all I have done here. So the first thing, remember, because this yoke is not uniform on both sides of our center front, it's like a wavy or curved yoke. So I need to transfer everything that I have here on the other side so that I'll have a full front. But remember, this is just the half scale of my front bodice. So to do this, when I was drafting, I made sure to fold my paper into 2. Now I'm just going to take my tracing wheel and then I'll trace out everything that I have on this pattern, so that it can show on this other side. Then I'll be able to draw it out. So I've traced it out now, and then by the time I open it out, I can see it clearly. You can see it a bit perforated. I don't know if you can see it. So I can see everything here clearly. Now I'm going to take my marker, and then I'm going to transfer everything that I have here on this other side too. Okay, so everything we have here now have been transferred on this other side, and like I said, the shape of the yoke is a bit wavy, just like this. So to create that now, I'm going to be measuring what I have between. Remember, this is my bust point line and this is my under bust line. So I'll check what I have on that point, and the difference is 3.5 inches. So now from my bust point area, because I want it to sit right underneath my under bust. Okay, I want the yoke to stop on my under bust. So depending on where you want it to be, from my bust point area down, I'm going to take my tape rule, and then I'm going to measure 3 from this point. I'm going to measure that 3.5 inches round in a circular form. So from my bust point now, I'm marking 3.5 inches round. So this measurement I'm making now is just a guide, so that I can draw out a perfect curve. Okay, so here now I'm measuring the 3.5 inches round from my bust point, and then I'm going to make it into a circle, and I'll do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so that is what I'm doing. So after measuring it, if it's too high for you, you can multiply it. So I'm just going to, then I'm going to be connecting those points together like this. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so the circles are drawn now. So just the way it is shaped on the thumbnail, as we can see, you're going to be, you choose whichever side you want your curve to be. You're just going to be curving it, following this circle now as our guideline, if you're okay with the depth that you have here. So now, like I said, I want it to sit right under my under bust. You can see that the circle is just stopping at the under bust. If you don't want it on that point, when you're circling it, you can just go beyond it and then connect it like that. So the first thing I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to be taking my curved roller, and then I'm going to be blending this part from this center part here all the way to my armhole like this, because that is how I want it shaped. If you want any other shape, you can go for it. So from there now, I'm just going to be blending this in to meet my armhole. As you can see the smooth curve that I have here. So here at this bust point part, I'm going to go over to my center front, which is here. You can see the crease line of the center front here. So on this center front now, I'm going to take my curved ruler also now, and then connect from this part to blend in to the center front here. So I'm just looking for a perfect place to curve, to get my curve, and then once I have that, I'm going to be connecting it like that. So you can see how I'm connecting it. I'm trying to blend it in. So if you have a better curve, you can work with it. So after that, from that point also, I'm going to be connecting it to meet my underbust. So I'll also look for a good curve that can give me that, then I'm going to connect it once I have that. So from there now, I'm going to be connecting it like this. So you can see the curve that I'm having is from here, then all the way here. Then from here now, I'm just going to connect it to my side. Okay, so you can just connect it straight like this, or just give it maybe a curvy effect, or whichever one it is that you choose. So I'm just going to give it a slight curve. I don't want it too much, then I'm going to be connecting it there. So I have my yoke coming from here, then it curves like this, then go all the way to the side of the front like that. So now that I have this, so all this upper part now becomes my yoke. Now I'm going to cut it out, but because I still need this pattern to cut out my bustier, I'm going to be tracing the yoke part. So the yoke part is, let me just indicate it from all this curve, from the curve that we have here upward is our yoke part. So now I'll get the fresh paper and then place it underneath it like this, and then on this paper I'm going to be tracing out that yoke using my tracing wheel. Then I can now cut it out. So like I said, I'm just going to be following the shape of your curve that you have there. That's your yoke, and then you're going to be tracing the upper part. Now I'm going to, once you trace it out, I'm going to remove the pattern, and now I can see my yoke design underneath it. So I'll take my marker now and then trace out this design. Okay, so as you can see, the yoke is traced out. Now I just need to cut it out. So I'm going to set this aside now and then work on the off shoulder. Remember, there's an off shoulder Ankara underneath this. You can use Ankara or any other fabric that you want. I'm going to be putting this on fold again because I don't need it any longer. Then I'm going to draw out the shape that I want for my Ankara, the neckline shape that I want for my Ankara. So I'm going to be drawing with a sweetheart neckline, but this is so deep, so I'm just going to be going down from my upper part by around 8 inches, okay, or 9. Then I'm going to use my curve to connect it to that circle that I have there back. Okay, so this is the shape that I'm having for my off shoulder. It's going to start from here now and then goes all the way like that. So to tighten it a bit, I'm going to extend this nipple to nipple line upwards, and then here I'm going to be taking a dart of half inch. Okay, and then I'm going to connect that to 1 inch before my bust point, or ½ inch. So by taking this away, it will help my bustier to be firm on the upper part. So now I'm going to, the 1 inch that I removed here, I'm going to add it here, or it's not necessary because it's actually on the upper part and it's not going to affect my side seam measurement. So if it's going to affect it, you need to add it back. Then the next thing is for you to add your necessary allowance if you haven't, and then I'm going to be cutting this out. Okay. So now after cutting it out now, I'm going to cut out my darts. Okay, this is my center front, and these are going to be my 2 side fronts. So now I'll take this to my Ankara fabric now, and then I'll cut it out, and then the yoke part I'm going to be cutting it on a lace fabric. So this is what I have. As you can see, this is the center front and these are the 2 side fronts. So we are going to be padding it. You can see we already have the lines that our soft wadding is going to go through, and also I already have a tutorial on how to pad your bustier, so you can check that out. But already this is already showing you how you are going to be adding your wadding to this, or if you want to add a ready-made bra cup, whichever one you want to use. So now I'll take this to the table now and cut out my fabric, then bring it back to show us. Go ahead to cut out the yoke with this lace fabric. So if you are going to be adding allowance to this, you need to add necessary allowance. Remember, I'm doing this for the purpose of a tutorial, and then probably on your neckline. And then I also cut out my bustier part using this Ankara fabric. So you just place it on the Ankara and cut it out. Then you add allowances on the upper part here. Remember, you'll be turning it to the lining and probably on the dart area if you don't have allowance there, and on your side seam. Okay, so if you're turning this, if you have to be making this for a client, you cut your lining also exactly the same way you cut out your Ankara, then use it to turn out each other. So now I'm going to be taking this to the sewing machine now, and then I'm going to be joining them together on the dart area. So I'm going to be joining this to this side, and then I'll join this to this side also. Then I'll bring it back to show us how we're going to be putting our yoke. Okay, so this is sewn now. Already taking it to our sewing machine to sew it. So like I said, if you're going to be lining this now, you can see that the bust is even forming already, even without a bra cup. So if you're going to be lining this, you cut your lining the same way and then use it to turn it on the neckline area here. And if you're adding a wadding to this, you'll be cutting your wadding like this, and then you gum it to it. The shiny part of the wadding, you gum it to each of the side before you sew it. So I just want to show us a tip if you want to add a bra cup to your bustier. So what you just need to do is, this is a ready-made bra cup. You just fold your bra cup like this now and try to locate the midpoint, which is here. So this is the nipple area here. So on your bustier also, after you might have pressed open your seam area here, you need to locate where your nipple point is, which is obvious. You can see that deep part where your nipple point is. You match it with your breast cup here like this. You hold it with your hand, and then you can use that part with you can hold that part with a pin. Okay, so once you hold that part with the pin, you can decide to do the other one also. You get your midpoint, locate your nipple point, and then you press open your seams, and then you put it now, and then you also hold that part with a pin. Okay, so after opening it, this is where we are, and you have to make sure that they are uniform, like what you are seeing here. So now on this side, there are several ways you can actually add this. Some people tack it, but I don't really like tacking it. If you're very, very neat in sewing, you see this place where you joined it, that's where you joined your bustiers together, that seam line that you have here. Sometimes I like to just spread it open like this, then I'll drag it, then I'm going to be sewing on that area exactly. You see where I have my seams here, I'm going to be sewing on it directly like this on that edge. So you have to be very neat, and you have to sew this carefully. So you just drag it like this and then sew on this place that you already sewn. It's not going to show if you sew it well. You can even use an invisible thread. So that is going to hold your bra cup to your bustier for you. Or you can tack it like I said, but I don't really like tacking it there because it may show. Another thing you can use is just use your hemming gum. So this is an hemming gum. You're just going to be cutting your hemming gum now, and then you place it in between your bra cup and your bustier. Then you hold this like this, then you get your tailor's ham. That's what you use to iron the cup area of your bra. Then you get your tailor's ham, you place it on it, and then apply heat on it. You can use a steam iron. So this hemming gum now is going to melt into the bra cup and the fabric, and it's going to fuse them together. So it's going to let it hold in place for you. Then after that is when you're going to be turning the neckline with your lining. So this is just a tutorial, so I'm just going to be holding this bra cup with pins to my bustier now. So you can see the way I'm dragging it. So if you're ironing, that's how you drag it, so that everything has to lay really flat. You can see what you have here. You must not have anywhere poking out or looking bumpy. So you just drag it well and make sure that they all lay as flat as possible for you. So once they are laying flat like this, you know you have gotten it right. So now I'm going to be holding the other side also with a pin, and then we're going to bring in our yoke. So I've pinned in my bra cup now, and then I'm just going to be bringing in my yoke. Remember, this is our yoke, and we cut it like this to fit in like this. So I've cut that on my lace fabric now, and then I'm going to bring it and then place it on it directly. Okay, so you can notch the center part on your yoke. You can notch that part so that it can guide you. So you place it directly on your yoke like this, and then you pin it. Okay, so I'm going to be placing it directly on my yoke, and then I'm going to be pinning it round so that it can stay in place before I take it to my machine to sew. So now when you're pinning this, when you get to this other side here, remember on this part now the bust is cut out completely, so it's not going to be affected. But on this other part now, if you look at our pattern, so this is what the pattern is looking like. On this other side, which includes the bust, you can see that we cut out 2 inches from our pattern, and we did not include that in our yoke. So the yoke may be a bit bigger than your actual bustier pattern, so you're just going to be draping it on it like we are doing a draping. So you can do this on your mannequin, or you can do it manually also. So the excess that I have on my lace yoke, I'm just going to trim it off. So it's advisable that you use a lace that is not too strong, that you can easily drag, so that you can easily do the draping that you want to do on it. I hope you understand that. So by the time you are doing your own and you notice that it is bigger, so you can see the underbust. I said I want it to sit on my underbust, and you can see how it is sitting on the underbust area. So if you are doing your own now and you notice that it is a bit bigger, you should not panic. It's bigger because of the bust dart that we took around that area, and we did not take it when we were drafting it on our yoke. So that is why we have something bigger there. So now you can see the excess that I'm talking about. So I'm just going to be trimming off that excess, and then I'm going to be draping this lace fabric on it in such a way that I'm not going to be having any way bumpy. So you're just going to try to maneuver your way around it, and then you trim off the excess lace that you may have there. Okay, so that is all you need to do. So it's not advisable that you take any dart on your lace, because it's not going to be looking really nice. So that's why we're going to be removing. You can see how I'm just dragging it so that it can lie as flat as possible. So that's what you should do. Okay, you should just find your way around it. So we're going to be trimming off this excess that we have. Like I said, I always like to drape it on my mannequin like this, so it becomes easier. If you have a pinnable dress form like this, you just drape your lace on it, and then you can easily eradicate whatever excess that you can have. So you can see that this is lined for us very flat now, and then whatever excess that you have, you just try to shear it so that it can be moderate, and you will not have to take any dart. You can see what we have here now. So now I can easily tag this on my mannequin, or I just bring it past and take it to my machine. So what I'm going to do now on my sewing machine, I'm going to be sewing on it directly like this, following this shape that I have. So I'll sew on it and follow this shape. I can sew on it because if you check the thumbnail, you'll see that this part is covered with a trimming. So after sewing on it like this, I'm just going to bring in a trimming and then sew the trimming on it also, so that I can use it to cover up all these rough edges. Okay, so as you can see now, I've brought it out now, and I just pinned it from my mannequin so that it can stay in place. So you can see that it is also laying as flat as possible. So that is what you want to achieve. Now I'll take it to the machine now and then sew it from this place now round. Then after sewing it like that, so I have this trimming, so I'm just using this for the purpose of tutorial. You can get something bigger that's going to hide this very well. So you're just going to be placing it on it now, and then you use it to hide that rough edges. So I'll go over to the machine and do that now, then bring it back to show us. So this is our blouse now. The yoke has been added to the ankara, and you can see that it just follows the curve that we drafted on our pattern. So I just went ahead to use this trimming to cover up the rough edges like I explained, and this is what we have. You can see how beautiful this is looking. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel if you haven't. And for the back bodies, you can actually add any back panel that you want, but you should have a shoulder because you're going to need to join it together on the shoulder parts like that. So this is the full feel of the blouse, and it is really beautiful. See you in the next one. Bye.